Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wareham Planning Board meeting of March 4, 2024. Also available online at the address noted at the top of the agenda. We'll call the meeting to order with a roll call. Sherry Quirk?
Here.
Notice Mike Baptiste and Jane Gleason are not present. Sam Corbett?
Here.
Carl Schultz?
Here.
And the chair, Michael King, is here. So we do have a quorum. Okay, first up, well, that's all we have is preliminary business tonight. Discussion and possible vote regarding approval of payment of invoices. Sonia, are you going to speak to that for me? As to detail behind it, or do you want me to waffle my way through it?
You can, or I can,
Okay.
Mr. Chair. Completely up to you.
All right, I'll give the broad stroke and you keep me honest.
Sure.
Okay, so up until the time of Ken Buckland's retirement, if the planning office needed to pay a contractor on behalf of the planning office from funds from a 53G account concerning a project ongoing in the town, that Sonia would present the invoice to Mr. Buckland. Mr. Buckland would review it and then write his approval on that invoice prior to it being forwarded to the Board of Selectmen to be paid, or authorized to be paid. Is that, do I have it correct?
They're actually, they go to the accounting office.
Okay, so they don't have to go to the BOS to be,
No, so they're, at that point, they're placed on the warrant for the Board of Selectmen to sign off on.
okay, so ultimately, they do go to the Board of Selectmen for approval?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, all right. So now, with Mr. Buckland no longer here to complete that function, it was proposed that the planning board take this over. So on our Monday meetings, you will present us with invoices that need to be reviewed and approved?
Correct, so any invoices that require, would require Mr. Buckland's signature will now be presented to the planning board for a signature.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Raposa, that's how it used to happen, right? A long time ago?
Before my
It used to
time.
be.
Yeah.
And then the planning board ended up giving that permission to Mr. Buckland to sign off on these invoices instead of it coming to the board.
Okay, so we're just reverting back to a
Right.
prior.
And just one more question. This is how the zoning board does it, right?
So even the zoning board projects that, you know, essentially these are site plan reviews that require a 53G account,
Right.
which are reconciled between the treasurer's office, planning office, and the accounting office. They essentially go back and forth through a reconciliation period. Just making sure that there's enough funds in the account prior to me paying these invoices. So we know that there's funds in the account. I simply pay the invoices, Mr. Buckland would sign off, but now in lieu of having a town planner, they're coming back here for your
Okay.
signature.
Thank
All of
you.
their invoices are being paid by Mr. Derek Sullivan.
Thanks.
Okay, cool. Okay. So at this point, I guess we just need a majority vote of the board to accept this responsibility back into our fold again?
A question. We're not approving any bills tonight?
We're not approving
We
it?
don't have any. Mr. Buckland's signed off last Thursday prior.
Okay, so, great.
Right,
So
this is
all we're
just
doing is accepting,
The responsibility,
so this will be a standing agenda item going forward.
correct.
Perfect. Now I'm caught up.
Good. I feel better.
Well, I didn't have any clue. It was like a complete surprise.
That there was a last-second spirited conversation between Ms. Raposa and myself.
Great. I move that the planning board reassume authority for reviewing and approving invoices related to 53G accounts, only 53G accounts, right?
Correct.
53G accounts for projects that we're
Ongoing.
reviewing.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion by Carl Schultz, seconded by Sam Corbett, excuse me. All in favor? Sherry?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that this is an administrative matter,
Yes.
which can be voted on by the associate member of the board.
It is, that's why I asked you.
And therefore, I vote aye.
You do? Sam Corbett? Carl Schultz?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, well, I guess we're the new paymasters, Sonia. Next up, response letter on the solar farm MEPA review. This was kind of a last-second thing that Sherry was gracious enough to take on and produce, where we had to ask for an extension in the public comment time period. So,
Which we weren't granted, right?
we weren't granted, no. They pretty much told us we were, I think they graciously gave us like 2 or 3 days, didn't they?
We have to have something in by tonight.
It's gotta be,
Yes.
yeah, it's gotta be in by tomorrow.
According to the analyst, yes.
So I read the letter, I thought it was very well written, pointed, but obviously the board needs to weigh in on its content and whether or not it's appropriate for us to put our names on it and forward it.
So for discussion, I read the letter as well. I thought it was well-crafted. Given the time that we had, Ms. Quirk put way more research into it than I've had time to do, and I think it covers all the points except, which is a point for discussion, very clearly, this project does not meet the requirements of our zoning bylaws as they stand, and it also does not meet the article and amendment that we made at Fall Town Meeting regarding battery solar storage, which is, of course, not approved. So my question is, do we want to reference that? And also, I have a question, I think, for the surrogate town planner, or perhaps, has this project been filed with the planning office yet? Other than there was an A&R that protects this lot 3-24. Have we heard that? I don't remember if
I
we...
don't think that's been before us.
It's been filed, so they have zoning protection with the filing of that A&R. What was the date of that filing? I guess the problem is that we never posted, this was an ongoing debate I had with the clerk. We never posted the zoning bylaws that were approved at Fall Town meetings, so they're not in effect. So the only bylaws that this project will be subject to were the spring 2023, which we did get our solar bylaws. So the only relevant bylaw is 594.1, subparagraphs 4 and 5, which this project does not comply with. So the question is, do we want to reference that? And Ms. Quirk said she had an opinion.
Yes. Well, first, I would say those are really excellent points. And I think that goes to the question of what zoning bylaws or law in general would guide this planning board in its review of this project. And people will get sick of me repeating this, but I'll repeat it again. I am a lawyer, but not a lawyer in Massachusetts. So I'm speaking as a lawyer with experience in similar matters outside of this state for the most part. I believe that when you have jurisdiction over something as a regulator, it is better not to ask another regulator's opinion of it. That is, those matters are for the planning board to decide, and I think it might be information for the DOER or for the secretary. So for that reason, we could report them. I mean, this is not a really strong opinion, but, I thought about it and thought, why don't we take those questions up when the case comes before us, which I
Okay.
don't think it is yet. So
It's not, I don't believe, before us yet.
So that's sort of, where my experience led me. We could mention them, and it would be information to have out there in the public domain about this project. I just, I thought that it would be better to confine our comments here to what the jurisdiction of the office looking at this is.
Okay. I think that's sound argument. I do have another question when you're done.
Sure, and, but again, I think these are really good points that we have to bear in mind going forward. And I don't know, Mike, if you want me to say anything about what's in the letter or possibly read the executive summary, what would you like in terms of?
I think the executive summary would be good.
Okay.
Well, before we do that, I have just more discussion generally on the bylaws. I accept your thoughts on them not regulating it, and if we include it for information or not.
Right.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Faraday. Is the Conservation Commission going to weigh in? Because I believe it also violates several of our wetlands bylaws.
They will have to file with the Conservation Commission.
So, but you're not going to write a MEPA response?
No.
Okay, so we then, the same argument would apply for me not bringing up the reference to the wetlands bylaws that it seems out of sync with. Okay, that was my question.
Good question.
So the public needs to be aware that the planning board is well aware of its jurisdictional requirements and how the zoning bylaws might apply to some project should it ever come to us.
And I think that's probably the proper place to address it, is when it does come to us.
And I think it is also a good idea to get on the record tonight that there are zoning bylaws that are implicated and potentially not consistent with what this filing is.
Great, thank you. Thank you for your advice.
Okay. This is the executive summary. The Wareham Planning Board submits these comments to raise several questions about the E&F for the Secretary's consideration. In recent policy proposals, the Secretary has recognized the role of forested and natural lands in addressing climate change. The project proponents, the REDP, proposes to clear 56 acres of forested land, some of it irreplaceable pine barrens habitat, for construction of the North Wareham Solar Project, NWSP. The Wareham Planning Board questions whether this project is consistent with the Secretary's direction in preserving forested land for carbon storage and capture to address climate change. Further, if ultimately approved by the NSWP will join approximately 20 other approved and proposed solar projects in Wareham. The Wareham Planning Board believes it is essential to examine the cumulative impact of these projects on Wareham's local environment and resources, and to determine whether the degree of solar development in Wareham, if continued by this project, will have an adverse impact on the town. This review is particularly important because of the proximity of the North Wareham Solar Project to 8 environmental justice populations in Wareham and nearby Carver. As Mass Audubon has demonstrated in its recent study, Growing Solar, Protecting Nature, large ground-mounted solar development and accompanying deforestation has been concentrated in just a few areas of the state, with Plymouth County prominently among them. The Wareham Planning Board requests that the Secretary review this project to assure that environmental harms are not clustered in an area close to environmental justice populations. Finally, the NSWP, the North Wareham Solar Project, includes as one of its elements a sizable battery energy storage system. The E&F contains no discussion of the potential adverse effects of the BESS on the environment, notwithstanding risks known to be associated with such systems. That's the executive summary.
Yep, very well written. Comments from the board? We already heard your comments, you don't get that.
The only other comment, and I don't know that we need to add it to the letter. The other concern that I have, which would come up if the project comes before us, they are proposing mitigation and conservation offsets. However, none of the proposed mitigants or conservation offsets will occur in Wareham. They're going to do them in some other place. So the impact to our community won't benefit from any of those mitigants. So I don't know if we want to reference that. I do know that the Land Trust pointed that out. This is a really gross idea, the way it's being handled, but
You know, I wish there were a way for projects to be looked at and worked on by the community so that there could be some consensus and shaping of a project to make it more acceptable to a community, but we don't get that chance. We haven't gotten that chance. And, you know, it's a shame, but here we are. I do have one question for the other members of the board, though.
can we, just to that point you made, if this project does come before us, it will have to go to the Design Review Board, which will be an opportunity for the community to shape the project. Based on our recently passed rules and regulations.
Yes, that's
So-
an excellent point.
Yep.
And Carl, I did consider, through the chair to Carl. Yes. I did consider including the point about mitigation occurring outside of our town. And I did not include it because based on the phone call that I listened to, it was clear that that point was going to be made by a number of people. And so we can add it if you want. I think
I just wanted it on the record that we're aware of it, and again, it's just, the applicant is just completely disregarding the community within which they're proposing the project.
Yes. I do have one question, though, for the members of the board, which is, I referenced 3 other nearby projects. And is that the right number for, I mean, during the call, there was discussion of several projects. It was unclear to me exactly how many of them could fit into the nearby categorization.
Well, I think we could say anything that's north and west of 495, what is, it's 190, 495, 195, 495. That whole area, there's 6 or 8 projects over there, which could conceivably be, right? There's at least that many projects. So clearly 3 is,
Okay.
I didn't take the time to count them, but there's 140, 150, 160. There's,
Frogfoot's already out there.
right, the Blue Wave projects down by the warehouse, or not the warehouse, the depot. Then the Linda Renta project, Rocky Maple Solar, the one that came before us,
No, yeah,
North Carver,
County Road.
It's more like 10,
yeah. There's a huge number of projects,
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
yeah,
All in that general area.
yeah.
Okay.
And we could count up, if we had more time to respond, we could count up the acreage and again, it's,
Yeah, I tried to,
All next to each other.
yeah.
Josh, you want to say something?
So I did attend the site walk, and I made it clear that the mitigating land should be somewhere in Wareham, and they were actually driven by natural heritage to locate it where it is.
Who's Wareham Natural
No,
Heritage?
no,
or-
natural heritage and
from the
endangered
state?
species
Oh.
action.
So they couldn't find any space inside Wareham that would be appropriate for,
I don't know that they actually looked. I think they had a discussion with Natural Heritage, and Natural Heritage said, if you're looking for mitigation land, we have a large chunk of it already that we would like added on
convenient.
to.
Oh,
But convenient for somebody else.
right.
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 And that's the point I made. I said that doesn't really help the town of Wareham.
No, it doesn't. The townspeople are giving up all the benefits of the forested land, and somebody else is getting
Yep.
the benefits. Okay. so
I move that we
we adopt the letter. and
we
forward
adopt
it.
the letter and get it forwarded ASAP.
Do we have a second?
Shall,
Wait,
sorry, shall I adjust the number from 3 to 11?
maybe too many, or do we, are we confident that the number is?
This is what's out there, what's on the books. I count 11.
11 arrays,
At least,
Not all.
Not all
all
built.
built yet,
Not active right now,
right,
yeah,
but they've passed.
at least 10?
yeah.
Okay,
Well, he's got 11, so I'm okay with the count.
okay, 11.
I'm sure if we screw it up, they'll be fast to correct us, so.
I could get a higher number by just.
I think 11 probably sends the point home that
I think so.
we've got fair amount of them going on.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion to accept the letter as written with the addition, or the change of the number of arrays noted from 3 to 11. Do we have a second?
I am reluctant to second.
Okay, second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Carl Schultz,
I
second
just wanted your
by
name on it.
Sam Corbett. Again, this is not a function of a site plan or an active, so I'm going to ask you to vote. So we have a motion by Carl Schultz, seconded by Sam Corbett. All in favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Can't believe you interrupted my vote. Really?
Just saying you're down a member. Ms. Quirk
That's
can
right.
vote.
Well, for administrative matters, I think according to the revised
Right.
rules and regulations, she can.
She can
For
vote.
those citizens who don't live in town who continue to complain,
I think as an associate, when you're down a member, associate members kick in.
Okay, next up. Set a public hearing date for the URP review and decide whether a joint hearing with the select board, that's kind of an incomplete sentence, is appropriate. We have someone from the redevelopment authority here tonight. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. That we'd like to have come up and kind of give us a quick overview of the status of this, which would be fabulous, because I think we're all a little bit behind the 8 ball with this.
Yes, Mr. King, Planning Board, thank you for putting this on your agenda for tonight. I'm Dan Butler, I'm the chairman of the Wareham Redevelopment Authority. As you, I'm sure know, we've been working on this urban renewal plan for quite some time, better part of 2 years now. It's substantially complete. I would say it's about 95% complete. Before we can submit the plan to the state for final approval, which would allow us then, as a redevelopment authority, to exercise the powers of a redevelopment authority in implementing that plan, we need 2 things that are very important. One, we need you to agree with it. We need you to review it. We need you to hold a public hearing and discern from your perspective whether or not this plan comports with the town's master plan. The select board also is required to, or we're required to ensure that the select board has a public hearing and also votes to approve and forward the plan to the state. And that issue here is, one, should you have a joint public hearing? Personally, I'm not sure that would be a good idea. There are pros and cons. The pro would be you'd have one public hearing. The cons would be, one, you'd only have one public hearing. It might be better to have 2 public hearings. I think the more awareness in our town regarding this renewal plan, the better. The more opportunity citizens have to engage and provide feedback, the better. And also, I think you and the select board would have different optics in terms of how you would be looking at the renewal plan, and you might attract a different audience, given your different optics. It may be problematic to try to schedule a joint hearing. I think it would probably be easier in the end if you picked dates that were convenient and worked best with your busy calendar, and if the select board did the same. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have about the renewal plan.
Excuse me. Thank you, Dan. Through some correspondence, we were led to believe that there's some sort of sense of urgency to complete these public hearings, and is that accurate? I mean, is this something where we should get this, like, done right away? Is this something that we can schedule out, you know, a couple of weeks, few weeks?
There's no deadline. We are under no deadline. I would not characterize this as an urgent matter. It's an important matter, and at some point, we need your agreement that this is a good plan for Wareham, and that would have to follow a public hearing in front of you. And so those two important steps would have to be accomplished at some point. But I will point out, the plan is about 95% complete. Although it's in draft, it has not stopped us from implementing certain aspects of the plan. For example, the town voted to rezone the Wareham Village District at a recent town meeting, a key aspect of our urban renewal plan for the Wareham Village. So not having this done immediately and would not impede us from being able to move forward on certain aspects of the plan. I think the more time the public has to digest it, the better. So I would not characterize it as urgent. I think if you can put it into your schedule when that makes sense, knowing how busy you are, I know the Redevelopment Authority and I personally would appreciate it very much.
Okay. Mr. Schultz?
I have, through you to Mr. Butler, this plan is only directed at the downtown redevelopment district, is that correct? I haven't read it completely yet. but
Wareham
it-
Village.
the-
Yes, sir.
Wareham Village 1, that district, yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That was my question. For our discussion, one of the things we might discuss is whether we request Ms. Raposa to publish this somewhere on the town website. I don't think it's been published yet.
Could we do that?
Perhaps on the Redevelopment Authority page, or I don't, Mr. Butler, where do you think the appropriate place to post it would be?
Yeah, I don't think it would hurt to have it on both pages.
I can put
It would just be a link,
on
so
on the planning board, on the front of the planning board page, like near the, where I just recently posted the rules and regs.
Great,
Create a tab.
great. Because if we're going to have a public hearing, people need to have something to,
Yeah,
Yep.
they want to prep, read it ahead of time before
Right.
they come in.
perfect, thank you so much.
I agree, and it's a lengthy plan. It's over 300 pages.
There's a lot to
all the
digest.
Yeah, I haven't gotten through it all yet, so.
Good luck.
So looking at our calendar as it stands, the 25th is already gobbled up,
And we're almost too late to post the public hearing anyway.
right? So the
This will be into April now, right?
It has to be April, yeah. March 25th, you'd have to advertise this Thursday.
yeah, and we
too
already
late.
have a lot on that. We already have a lot on that anyway, so
You
I
have a new
wouldn't
hearing,
want to.
actually, that day.
I'd kind of like to schedule it in order to give the public who does want to comment time during the meeting, rather than having it be jammed in the middle of 3 or 4 lengthy discussions.
Yeah, so perhaps we could dedicate nearly a whole meeting.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, maybe some other small things, but this is,
Yeah,
it
don't
could
get
could be a
overly-
lot, it could be a lot of comment.
So, excuse me. So the second, so that would be April 8th or April 22nd. There's an excellent chance that I won't be in town for either one of those dates. I have a lot of travel for work scheduled over the next 90 days, so
All right, do you want to be here for the discussion?
I'd like to be.
Then push it into May.
Do you have a problem if we push it one more meeting?
No, sir,
into
not at
May?
all. No problem with that at all.
Okay, so the second Monday in May, the 13th. And then we can purposely keep that meeting very, very light so that we can dedicate the meeting to this.
And I'm sorry, the day again, Mr. Chairman, I missed that,
13th?
13th of April?
No,
May.
May.
Oh, 13th of May. Okay.
That'll work?
Yes, sir.
Great, then we have to do the notices.
Well, that gives Sonia tons
Plenty
of
of time to
time.
do the notices, yeah.
Thanks, sir, I appreciate your
Well,
consideration.
And I appreciate you coming in, giving us the clarification on the urgency part of it. That's awesome.
Happy to help.
And by doing that, I think we've concluded that it's best to follow the advice and have two separate.
I absolutely.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay.
April 22nd, town meeting.
Oh, so we couldn't have it that day anyway.
Oh. Yeah, not that, yeah. Okay. All right, so the 13th works then.
Yep.
Okay, next up, vote on Bay Pointe Phase 3 covenant release and bond. Dennis?
I don't know that he needs to,
He's
want
just-
to discuss it?
Yeah, but, I mean, he can, he actually took the time to come and be present, which I appreciate. So we may not talk to you while you sit there, but nice to have you there to answer a question.
I'll listen.
All right, so what we have is through lengthy discussions and some actions on both the part of the planning board and the Board of Selectmen is in lieu of a I can't say that word.
Tripartite.
Thank you. Agreement. The proponent has posted a bond,
As a form of surety,
As
which
a
is their
form-
right.
right, is a form of surety in the amount of $44,375, which is the agreed-upon number based on the review by Allen and Major as to the amount of work left to be done in that Phase 3 portion of the development. So we do have the executed bond, which was forwarded to the Board of Selectmen for their approval and vote, which they did on the 27th.
Correct.
Thank you. And is now back before the planning board to vote to adopt, at which point then we would,
We need to execute
the,
that agreement, and Mr. Welch needs to file that agreement.
and it needs to be filed. And then at that point, we have the covenant release.
Which we need to do first.
So,
Or we could do, we have to do them together.
they're kind of tied together, right?
Right.
Okay, so,
So just to remind everyone, the covenant covering Phase 3 is a partial covenant. We released the covenant for Phase 2, and we established a tripartite agreement and a schedule of values for Phase 2, but that left the covenant covering Beacon Street, right? The properties on Beacon Street.
Correct.
So this is merely changing the form of surety. Well, not merely, it does one other thing. Changes the form of surety for completing the construction of the roads, sewers, and other related infrastructure, and protects the town should the developer default on the remaining items. So we need to release the remaining covenant and then institute the new surety.
accept the bond.
Right, now, the one thing that by releasing the covenant, the one thing that that does do is it allows the developers to get building permits.
Building permits, right, which, with this in place,
He still has to finish the road.
yeah, exactly. So,
There- I noticed there's some citizens in the audience, just other statement. Reestablishing this form of surety, Phase 3, does not impact the surety that we're developing for Phase 1, nor does it impact the surety for Phase 2.
correct,
They're-
they're standalone.
We've been advised by council that they are standalone
Right.
and need to be managed that way. But those are still in place, or will be in place.
Okay, so we have the executed bond, so I guess at this point, we would just need a vote from the board to release the covenant.
Do we have the reference for the covenant so that we can read it into the,
I can try. We do have it.
yeah, we should just really read it, map and page and book reference.
Okay, so the covenant release form, the understand being the planning board.
So, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Sonia has a question.
Do we have confirmation that it was before the select board and they approved it?
The bond?
Phase 3.
Phase 3
Phase
bond.
3 bond. Because I
Yes.
know it was supposed to be before the select board.
It was
On the
last.
27th.
Josh, you happen to know, did the,
I
I have the notes. Ken dropped these off with me on Thursday. We had no discussion. I just know that these were the notes he left with me, that this was supposed to be before the select board on Thursday. I just picked him off his desk, so I don't have that confirmation.
I have email confirmation from the chair of the select board.
Okay.
That it was acted on and approved.
thank you,
Okay.
thank you, perfect.
Thank you.
All right, so, the undersigned being the planning board of the town of Wareham hereby certify that Bay Pointe Club LLC, AKA Bay Pointe LLC, care of Stone Street Corporation of 1275 Wampanoag Trail, Suite 14, East Providence, Rhode Island, 02915, holder of a covenant dated October 7th, 2019, in the town of Wareham, Plymouth County, Massachusetts, recorded with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds in Book 49445, page 180, and hereby acknowledges satisfaction of the terms, therefore releases the covenant and any right, title, and interest in lots 1 and 2 fronting on Beacon Street in Phase 3, designated on a plan entitled Modification to Special Use Permit and Site Plan Approval and Definitive Subdivision Plan Approval, definitive plan submission for Bay Pointe Club Mixed Use Development, Phase, it says Phase 2 and 3 in this
It was
document.
2 and 3, they were combined.
Correct. In Wareham, Massachusetts, prepared by Principe Company Incorporated and dated May 26, 2021, with the latest revision August 3rd, 2021, filed with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds in Book 65, page 780, in exchange for surety in the form of Phase 3 recorded in Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. No book, no page.
Well, it hasn't been recorded yet.
Right.
Okay. So I move that we release the remaining covenant as described by the chair in favor of
In favor of the bond.
installing a bond as surety.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Carl Schultz, seconded by Sam Corbett. All in favor? Sherry?
If I could vote, I would vote aye.
I think you can, because we're down 2 members. I agree with Ms. Sonia, if you have voting privileges.
If I have voting privileges, I vote aye.
Sam?
Yes.
Carl?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, so,
I think you can, we don't need to all sign it, right?
now there's only one spot. It's only me going to jail.
And then, as agreed, Mr. Welch will file it, return it to the clerk and the planning office so that we have it all duly noted and recorded.
Yep. Okay.
Hallelujah.
Mr., you want to read, or we just want to, I move that we
Just-
establish the
bond.
surety agreement,
Yep.
which you should have a document that's the surety agreement, right?
I have a bond number.
No, we got a different document for Ken, which should be the equivalent to the tripartite agreement, I thought. Yeah, completion bond.
That's what I have.
Oh, okay, but that's,
This is the executed document.
all right, I guess, we just need to accept that, I guess. and-
Yeah, and we can reference the bond number.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the bond number,
S-315696 in the amount of $44,375.
in acknowledgement of the release of the covenant, and this is in place for 2 years. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if the work is not completed in 2 years, we can't forget it like we did.
Right, should go on a tick system. Okay, do we have a second? We have a motion by Carl Schultz, seconded by Sam Corbett. All in favor? Sherry?
To the extent I can vote, I say aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, Dennis.
Now, do I have to record the bond as well? Or
Yes,
just
I believe you have to, there should be
It does, yeah.
that surety agreement has to
the
be filed.
covenant and the bond?
The covenant and the
And
bond.
there should be 2 things. The covenant gets released. If it was a tripartite agreement, you would file the tripartite agreement. This is,
Yeah,
the bond has to get, I think, registered with the county.
I have to post it with town clerk first.
I'm sorry?
I have to post it before your recording.
Oh, okay,
So you'll have to collect it from her at a later date.
okay.
Tomorrow's fine, right after he signs it. Because I have to update that completion bond with his bond number, where it says to be assigned. I have to update that information, that this is just a draft.
Okay, so you can go see Miss Sonia after tomorrow.
And where will I find you?
Planning office.
Okay,
Okay?
very good, thank you.
Thank you for coming, we appreciate it.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, while Mr. Welsh is here, I have a couple of questions that are not agenda items, but just the, as I mentioned, we're trying to move forward with Phase 1 and Phase 2. Has the 53G account been refunded?
That's what this is.
Oh,
Is that what that is?
I'm not sure, I haven't seen it. Is that the funds? I know
This
we need
is
to
it.
replenish the account. We have, we actually have an invoice from Mr. Allen and Major that I haven't been able to pay because we didn't have enough funds in the account.
Okay.
And I know Mr. Buckland has asked him for it.
Now, the check is for $2,500.
That should cover it, because we have a little over 3,000 in the account now, or maybe a little over 2,000. I don't have.
So will
I don't-
that be sufficient to cover the
The
existing?
invoice that's there now, unless there's anything new,
There's a
then
lot more work that needs to be done, so that's.
we're gonna need more than that.
Okay, well, let me get past what I wanted to say. Will this, combined with what's in the 53G now, pay the existing invoice that you have, plus an anticipated invoice from Allen and Major to, let me finish, to review the core sample report?
And establish a schedule of values for Phase 1 so that we can institute a new bond.
Right, which it probably won't.
So the way the way Allen and Major sends their invoices is obviously based on their hourly rate and how long they're out there. So those vary. I don't know. But right now, that combined with what's in the account now will cover the unpaid invoice. I don't know if it'll cover anything else. So
Okay,
that I
so-
will need to replenish that 53G account,
All right, so,
or the applicant will need to give me more funds.
well, I think probably what we should do, Dennis, is we'll give the check, obviously, to Sonia to replenish the fund. She can pay the existing bill, whatever's left over. If you could send a note to Phil
And ask them.
and ask him, say, because I know Phil has the core sample report, because you copied in on that email.
Yep.
So if you ask Phil, will the funds that we have left handle your review of the core sample report? Let's get past that invoice,
Okay.
and then ask him for, an educated estimate on what he thinks the next round of review.
Will be.
Right, so the core sample should have let us move forward with releasing funds on the schedule of values for Phase 2.
Correct.
That then leaves the punch list for Phase 1
Phase 1.
and the bond, which has to get recreated.
Right.
Unless, I don't have to bond it if everything is done on Phase 1, correct?
If everything's done, then you don't need a bond, but the
Yeah.
question is what's,
Yeah, if you went through the punch list and
That's what my thrust is to finish that instead of having to bond
just,
it.
Okay.
that would be even better.
that would be, you're right, but we
Right.
still need the time for him to verify your work and,
Yeah, okay.
But he's still gonna have to walk Phase 1 with me as well.
Right, so there's still gonna be,
Right.
there's still gonna be demand for more funds at some point.
Right.
So, you can start that conversation with Tim now and get him prepared.
Okay. We're finally, I think,
Like, closing in on it.
closing in on
Yeah.
getting this,
We
the
just-
work done, and,
Moving forward.
right.
Okay. Sam?
Hallelujah. After the years.
I know, it's been on the agenda for the 6 years that I've been here.
Oh, there's still more to come.
Oh, I know, yeah,
We're cleaning up from 6, 7 years ago.
yeah,
Actually, more than.
yeah. Okay. Unless there's anything else, I entertain a motion. Come on, this is your favorite part.
Make a motion to accept.
No,
No,
to adjourn.
To adjourn.
Adjourn. I'm sorry. Thank God.
Yeah. Do we have a second? Sherry, you can vote on this.
I know I can vote. I would prefer not to second, though.
Oh, my God. Can I second?
Yes.
All right, I second that motion. All in favor, Sherry?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Can we discuss?
No?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you.